Hey everybody, this is Brett with a market recap. We wanted to give the weekend some time to sort things out and see how the end of the year worked its way out. But Happy New Year, everybody. We're going to dive into some news here and some charts and unpack what's going on in the crypto markets. And it does seem that we're having a little bit of a rally here, which I've been keeping an eye on and thought that we would see. So let's dive into it. I'm going to go ahead and kill the camera and share my screen here in just a moment. And certainly, if you like the content, hit like and subscribe down below, and we appreciate that. So let's dive into this here at share, and I'll kill the camera, but wanted to give you guys a quick wave as always. And okay, so let's dive in. The big news for this week is Genesis and a little bit of drama with the Winklevoss twins, Cameron Winklevoss, or collectively the Winklevi, and Barry Silbert, DCG. So in this article here, it talks a little bit about what's going on. So Genesis was a crypto lending platform that went under and owes roughly 900 million rather to Gemini, and that's the Winklevoss twins who own that. And so they've been trying to work things out. Essentially, though, Cameron Winklevoss yesterday or over the weekend put out a letter, I believe it was Monday yesterday, put out a letter to Barry Silbert, who is the head of DCG, Digital Currency Group, that owns Genesis, essentially demanding their $900 million in funds back that Gemini had loaned them. And they have been going back and forth on this for some time. So essentially, the letter yesterday was Cameron Winklevoss basically saying to Barry, we know you're dancing around this and trying to weasel out of it. You've got until January 8th to come up with a plan publicly of how you're going to take care of this. So the fear is that Gemini can pay the 900 million, they can absorb that, but obviously they don't want to. And if DCG, the big risk here is if DCG, which owns Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, which holds quite a lot of Bitcoin, the fear is that if DCG is forced to sell their Bitcoin or forced to have the GBTC sell their Bitcoin, it could really tank the markets. And so I think everybody's sort of waiting on that. That could cause a huge dump. Don't know that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I do think we have a little bit of a market rally coming in, but I wanted to cover that. So here's some more news here on the subject. Cameron Winklevoss gives the crypto baron Barry Silbert, as I just mentioned, 1 week to come up with $1 billion solution to make his Gemini customers whole. In his open letter, Cameron essentially said, hey, these are real people that can't pay their rent. They've lost their tuition and retirement funds. And he accused Silbert of unconscionable behavior by hiding from his creditors in an ivory tower. So I wonder if there's a side play involved here and they have a bigger chess move, some 3D chess that they're going to work on, and maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody takes over GBTC. But at any rate, the worst case scenario is that there's a huge dump of Bitcoin on the open markets. So I'm just skimming through these because I want to get into the charts. But essentially, this is crypto panic. We see a bit of a surge on the Coinbase because they have settled one of their lawsuits here that, uncertainty scares markets, and certainty, once things are settled, typically it goes higher. So we've covered that. And then in terms of on the block, more news about Genesis, saying it needs more time for its lending crisis solution. So they're trying to buy time, but usually that's a bad sign. And as we know with Sam Bankman-Fried, as he scrambled to raise some money in the final days, nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody really wants the hot potato, and they're unlike, I don't know, I don't want to speculate here, but this isn't good. So this is more news about how it's tied into DCG. And without going into too much detail, I think it's priced in the charts fairly quickly. So we'll take a look at the charts here. Just wanted to cover some of the news here today. This is also just in. Three Arrows Capital co-founder Suzu says Digital Currency Group and FTX conspired to take down Luna. So that's interesting. And we'd heard some rumblings that Sam and FTX were involved, but didn't realize that DCG might be involved. So it's certainly a cleansing of the crypto markets here, as painful as it is. So other than that, I don't see anything that we can't cover here other than this is news from Fantom Coin. We will look at Fantom Coin. It's one of our favorites. And so that's it. Let's dive into the charts, shall we? All right, so here's the monthly on Bitcoin. I just want to recover this and remind everybody that if we are at the bottom of this, usually it's a 2-year cycle. And so this is good news for us. We've gone through the 2021 rally and the bear market. So it's certainly still possible we go lower. We're hovering right around that 16,500 level, just below that, or right around 17,000, but right at this level. So it's certainly, we'll cover it. I'll show a pattern that I think we could be bottoming here, although I am leaving the door open for one final capitulation, kind of like this March 2020 COVID crash, which is still, it's kind of a blip on the chart, but it still happened. And so we need to leave that possibility open. But again, back in the 2020, 2012 to 2014 range, that was a 2-year bull market, went up 41,000%. That would have been 413x. And after that bear market, another bull market for 2 years here between 2015, really 2016, because it was toward the end, through 2018. And that was 8,900, call it 9,000% gain, or a 90x. So we see diminishing returns as we go higher, and there's a reason I'm showing this. It was 1,800% here in the 2019 to 2021, so significantly lower, and that would have been an 18x. But from here, so I placed this right around, now there's 2 ways to draw this. There's, if we draw it to around 170,000, that would be 1,000 or 10x. There are some people speculating, saying we could go to 250 to 300,000, certainly in the cards as possible if we get regulation, if we get the pension funds and institutional investors that have not been able to participate due to lack of regulation, and they have to be regulated. And I think they're not going to risk, they're not able to risk the pension funds and other public capital unless it's a hedge fund. But there's the big money is on the sidelines waiting for regulation, the sovereign wealth funds on the sidelines, because currently crypto too risky. If we do see some meaningful regulation, which appears to be coming, that could really explode these markets. And typically investors, especially institutions, and in crypto, they try to get ahead of that. So I did just read an article that there may be some regulation as early as first quarter. So the good news is, if there is any, and but the good news is all of this bloodbath in the crypto markets is going to accelerate and force countries and the US to regulate this, because there's too many people saying, hey, you've got to do something here. So that's the silver lining. All right, so let me put this away here, and I'll turn that off. Let's take a look at the projected bull run here. And so this is just speculative, of course, but again, the last bull run here, followed by this one and here. So this chart pattern is a direct overlay, as we've talked about in the past, of the prior cycle bull run. And if I draw it exactly to scale, then, which it never is, it puts us potentially up into that $300,000 range. So but I do think, and as we've seen some diminishing scale, which we also see in that Bitcoin regression band, if you've watched or seen any of that online. So, but conservatively, I'd say by 2025, we'd be 167,000 range, up in that area. Now, certainly we could see another pullback here. I think this would represent the equivalent of a COVID-style crash. This could happen from an escalation in the war. Did see a headline yesterday that Russia's not happy that the recent attacks from Ukraine were done with HIMARS missiles supplied by the US. This is very real, that we have to be concerned about an escalation in the war in Ukraine. People do desperate things when they're desperate. I don't want to scare anybody, but anyway, that's one thing that could cause this blip. The other would be an unwinding of GBTC and all their Bitcoin. So that's kind of this range here. But if we don't, still, I think we could see a nice little rally here, maybe up into the 52,000 range, or up to the 50,000 to 52,000 range, then some kind of a pullback. Bull markets do have pullbacks and cycles, and so that would be another opportunity to come back to support around that 26,000, 27,000 range, and then I would expect to see higher lows and continuing on higher well into 2024. As you know, the halving is in 2024, and that's when we see the accelerated push higher, like we did here. So that's what I'm watching for in these markets here. We just need to kind of be a little bit careful here if we've put in a bottom or not. All right, let's take a look at something else here. The moving averages, we're hovering right at this moving average here. That is the 100-month EMA, exponential moving average, and also the prior market cycle high, give or take, back in 2017 and 18. So if we turn that off, let's see, I've got some trend lines here. These are the possible levels where I think we could go if we had lower. 14,000, there's certainly a strong possibility there if we dump below where we're at currently. And let's just see, there's one thing. These are the SMAs. So we had previously held strongly at the blue line here, which was the 50-month SMA. This was the bottom here back in 2014-15. Again, in the 2018 range, came back down, held here at the COVID crash, but did not hold this cycle. So the blue line broke. So the 100-month simple moving average is also a possibility here, right around 13,000. So I'm looking for 14,000 here as the first possible level, as the prior cycle high in 2019. And if I extend that out, actually, all the way out here, back into 2017 and 18 range. Right, and the green line here, I used to be looking for about 12.5. It's been rising. That's that 100-month SMA. And the third level down would be this 10,000 level. So if we were to have a full 85% correction, if I overlay this again, it would put us down to that 10,000 level as we've been talking about. And that would be worst case scenario. Slightly below is potentially there. There's a CME gap, but that would require some more bad news and just grinding down, which we have to be careful of. And so any rallies here, bear market rallies, can be very dangerous. So we want to be taking profits into these and being aware that the selling pressure could come back. But a little bit of a relief rally, possibly this month, would be something to keep an eye on. And what I would specifically be watching for are if we put in a bullish engulfing candle, because these have been fairly foretelling in this market. This is again a monthly chart of Bitcoin. Back here in 2020, we had a bullish engulfing candle. After the COVID crash, pushes up, another bullish engulfing, pushes up, bullish engulfing. So yeah, whereas back here again, whereas the bearish engulfing candles here, that usually indicates more downside. So we had one here, another month down, another month down. So we've had this didn't quite qualify. It almost engulfed, but still went down. But right here, last month, November, sorry, we're in January now. In November, we had a bearish engulfing. So we did go down in December. So the key is this month. If we can close at or above 17,000, say 200, that would be a bullish engulfing candle, and ideally that we'd retest the midpoint of this candle here, which often happens on these larger candles here. Then we'd have a case for pushing higher and doing this kind of a mini rally on Bitcoin. Okay, so we have to wait and see. If we zoom out a little bit here, I know this is a bit messy, but I want to show the other thing that alerted on my alerts recently. The money flow index is bottoming according to historical levels. So the exact bottom was February 19 on the money flow. And so we're right down on this level here. So we could see money flow returning into these markets. And if we zoom out on that, that was the bottom, right at the bottom here in the 2018-2019 market. That was before pre-COVID crash. So that's very interesting. And of course, the MACD is slowly turning higher. This is one of the factors that led me to tell people to get into cash last November, as well as our own indicators. That we use, and this cross here in January, I was pounding the table to get out of these markets. So we're slowly turning higher. I do want to see this evening out a bit more, and but big battleships take a long time to turn around, and big cruise liners versus the smaller boats. So the monthly, it takes a little bit longer to kind of even out on that pricing. All right, so what else do we want to look at here? I think we've just about covered this. We covered the projected bull run, bull cycles here. Yeah. So why don't we hop on over to the weekly charts, have a look at what's going on several of these. There's a lot going on this chart. So let me jump to a different one. Also a weekly chart of Bitcoin. And these are these accumulation zones I've been following. And so the black line here, by the way, that was the 300 week moving average, which again had been a strong support line in the past. And we had broken down below that with the FTX debacle. So the second accumulation zone is between here, which is the 400-week moving average. That coincides with the 100-month moving average below, which we looked at in the monthly chart, right around 14,000. So this is still an accumulation zone, though, based on back here, I would suggest, and these support levels. But also, if we zoom all the way out, that's this sort of the prior high back in here was resistance. So this should act as a support zone. So that's why that's accumulation zone number 2. And below that, if we do break down below, again, this $14,000 level, then accumulation zone number 3 would be down below that at 12.5 as support, as I mentioned, and all the way down to 10,000. So these are potentially good dollar cost averaging areas because we don't know where the bottom is, but we are going to look for clues. Interesting that the stochastics RSI sort of started to bounce, kind of evening out here. What is it going to do? Hard to say. Not a really good clue on the weekly, but we're looking at the RSI. Interesting chart here. It broke down below prior support back in here, came back up, rejected, tried to get above it, rejected again, but also this uptrend line rejected. So I'm watching very closely. What is it going to do here? It'll either break higher, which would be good, or if we break lower, then looks like we're heading lower and to retest some lower lows. As far as our other indicators here, not seeing a whole lot necessarily. Let's say my early reversal indicator that we use, certainly want to watch this. This has been very telling for us. Not much. Let me jump to a different chart, make it a little clearer. The two scenarios, by the way. So in terms of where we are, we just covered we could push up higher to that 100-month moving average, which will now act as support and roll over and retest down here. Scenario 1. Scenario 2 is we head lower here and find support and then go higher. And certainly there is a possibility that we just push higher from here and get back above the support line. So we could see this and something like that if we extend that black line out. So break above it and then back to support. So that's what I'll be watching for and keeping an eye on this. But the markets are looking fairly strong, and I didn't expect to see that this week. In terms of what I'm seeing on the BLX, our early reversal indicator is giving a green line there, and but my trend strength indicator is just languishing a bit down below. So let's do this. I'm going to jump over to a daily chart here, back to the daily chart. Now this is giving me a interesting signal. And as last night, I had all green on our radar. These are some proprietary indicators that we developed and used. And so this ERI, the green arrow, early reversal indicator, when it lines up with this trend strength indicator going green and above the 20 line, it's a high probability reversal signal, especially when the signal line here, turn on these labels, also goes green. And our fourth indicator that makes up the 4 horsemen, as we call them. When these align, we do get very high probability pushes higher, as we saw here and here and here. And this is our trend indicator, which when we see the key and the green arrow says, hey, a trend change may be forming, and then the bell is a buy signal for this system. And then the numbers give ideas of where to take profits. So in the sideways markets, we can see 1 or 2 cycles here. So this would have been the take profit there, was a nice little push higher on that. What we're really watching for, however, and I'll hop back over to a weekly chart just for a moment. I'm waiting for the ideal signals to form, and we are getting an interesting little descending triangle here that could break to the higher, the upside or downside. But I want to call attention to the bottom of this here, the March 2020. This is a weekly chart of Bitcoin. And our indicators here, the ERI signaled here. It also confirmed with the TSI here, a signal line, and we had our trend indicator fire, the key and a bell. A little bit hard to see, but right down in here, and we saw multiple cycles of this, and that caught the exact bottom on this bull run. So what I'm expecting to see and waiting for is an alignment on the weekly basis of those 4 indicators. When they do align, we have a high probability that it goes higher, but I'm not seeing our ERI signal on the weekly chart yet. So I'm not convinced we've seen a bottom here yet, guys. So I think on a daily basis, we could have a short-term swing into this wedge in this range. So let me clean this up a bit. there you can see what I'm expecting. We've got two of these ERIs. This is the same pattern that called the bottom last summer. 3 early reversal indicators and then a push higher. So if you'd like more information about these indicators, by the way, you can go to moonstream.io/success, and that is a link with permission from Max that we can offer these and up to you guys. And that's moonstream.io/success. And so on this page, we have a free month special that you can use for getting access to these. So, and there's a link on here. There's more information here. We highly recommend these. We developed them for our own use, and you can get started for a free month, and you can have several pricing options here, monthly, quarterly, but the free month is the biannually. So that's moonstream.io/success. And so this is heavily what we rely on, and these are the signals we use on a daily basis. So I'm going to jump over to the overall market indices. We will look at Ethereum first here, see what's going on there. Again, on the daily, seeing a nice little curving on that and getting some bullish signals here. It's a little bit overbought, however, and so a couple more days of pushes higher, we'll see, but a little bit ambiguous on the daily chart. We do have some on the alts, though. The altcoins are looking pretty strong. I'll turn this off for the overall index. But interesting bounce here. We have a different kind of wedge. All of my signals on the radar, though, are green. And so that's why the alts are outperforming right now. This radar is one of ours as well. It's a nice little at-a-glance indicator for multiple time frames. This shows a 4-hour daily, weekly, and monthly looking bullish. So I do think we push higher on these altcoins for a number of days up into this range. And so we'll dive into some alts directly here. In terms of the total market cap, this is interesting as well because I wasn't sure if this would reject on this trend line. I guess we could move it up a little bit because technically this is where it rejected. We have to watch and see where the total market cap goes over the next few days. If it starts to reject and roll over here, then I do think we're heading down toward lower lows, and we want to be taking profits into this push. Bear markets are notorious for bull traps and bear market rallies. So watching these overall indexes is an important signal. And similarly, these opportunity zones here, I'll zoom out and show you why I think between 500 and 600 billion would be ideal places if we go lower to start accumulating because of this liquidity pocket here where price pushed up. And this was a lot of activity here and broke through, turned resistance into support. So this range here likely to hold if we start to head lower into those lower ranges. And similarly with Ethereum, I've drawn these ranges also. So this for me is where I would be buying and going in heavy on Ethereum between $500 and $600 if we go down there. Not to say we will. And I do expect Ethereum to be stronger as we go into the next push. And so we are actually starting to see that. Keeping an eye on Ethereum, ETH dominance rather. Again, zooming out over time, we saw ETH dominance falling from back in 2017-18 and then turned right here in November of 2019, pushed higher. So this was ETH dominance, money flowing into Ethereum, kind of flatlined here, but hasn't been hit too bad compared to Bitcoin in this whole drawdown. It's kind of flatlined here a bit, and in this green box, you can see that I'll zoom in on that a bit, where it's holding in this upward trend on the chevron. Chevron is V-shaped, so it's still in an uptrend, Ethereum dominance. So if we can see money flow back into these markets, and I have an alert set here at 20%, ETH dominance above 20%, look at this, it's pushing right up to it. And if it can hold above this level, I think we see a major rally in Ethereum. And that could be in the coming days and weeks. So we want to keep an eye on that. All right, so Bitcoin dominance, quickly look at that sort of falling over. Not much to see here other than it had a big push higher, but it doesn't look as good as some of the other coins. We might even see an altcoin rally, which I want to jump over to. Real quick, USDT dominance also. Now, if this breaks, this would indicate a rally. This, like the DXY, is inversely proportionate to crypto and has held in these zones, been pushing up, and pushing up all year as the market fell. If we see USDT dominance start to fall, that would be money coming out of stable coins and back into crypto. We're right at this very important level here, so we want to keep an eye on that right around 8.55%. All right, and I did get an alert, by the way, that USDT itself had fallen, and so that recovered fairly nicely. Haven't seen any news about that, but that's a little bit concerning that USDT, there have been attacks on stable coins trying to get them to lose their peg. So fortunately that recovered, and but we do want to keep an eye on that. I'm going to reset my alert because I don't like to see that's the other big thing that could really take these markets down. If for any reason USDT, that would be Tether, had any problems, and they claim they're one-to-one backed, but we've heard that a lot lately, haven't we? So keep an eye on USDT itself. All right, just skimming through everything. So let's jump over and look at some altcoins here. We've seen some nice movements in a few of these. I'm going to jump over to another list here that kind of been trading, and we had a good run on Haven Coin. By the way, this is one that some of our members here have we've been talking about back here a couple weeks ago, and that's a program that Max said we could tell you about. It's actually closed. It's moonstream.io/training. And this is a signal group we run every month, but at any rate, every week rather. This is the good signal on the indicators that I was telling you about. We had called Haven Coin here last week. Right down at this signal, we had the arrow, the green push up higher here, and then the signal line and the bell. So we are right at another bell on Haven Coin, so we're watching this to potentially push higher. So I have put a price target on that around $1.20, so we're seeing a nice push up on that now. And let's see, Polygon MATIC has been one to watch here. This is the cup and handle we've been watching. The longer the handle, when it finally breaks, very strong. Seeing an early reversal indicator here, but the radar is mostly red. So I think we're range bound on this for the time being. However, I'm getting a nice bell signal here. So I think in aggregate, I'm seeing this pattern on a number of alts, and that would coincide with what I was showing on the altcoin index. Now look at this Fantom coin, looking very good. All green on the radar, green is go, and a nice push higher. Fantom coin is a great project, very well funded and backed. They've got lots of assets, and so they're not going to run out of money anytime soon. Great project as well. All green on our indicators. We had the ERI last week here, and certainly the trend strength indicator, signal, and a key and a bell. I would expect to see at least up to 25, possibly 28 on Fantom coin. This is educational purposes only and not any financial advice, but just to skim through these, seeing some nice looking chart patterns on all these alts. I'll just turn these off for a minute, and so you can just see the charts. So Atom looking strong here, could push up to 1250 in this range. However, still is in a downward trend line. So this is that range as of now until we start to see a new upward trend line form. That's something I look for on a lot of these. AVAX seeing a nice little bounce. I had drawn this weeks ago that it pushed down in this range. It's getting a bounce a little bit earlier. So I guess actually, you know, I moved it. I should have left it where I had it originally. Somewhere in there. These are never exact. Would expect to see some kind of a bounce in AVAX with a rally in these alts. Nice little push higher in Solana. Solana back into a liquidity zone. Excuse me, I'm trying to draw these and go fast. Liquidity zone from back in 2021. And so it's back in screen range. When it broke below, I was suggesting it could head down here, and it still may. There's a head and shoulders breakdown on Solana, so be very careful with Solana. It's back in this range here, which is good, but the measured move from the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, the neckline broke here. The measured move from right there would put us down in this range around $3 or sub $3, maybe even $2.50 on Solana. So be careful with that, and we want to see it hold in this range. XRP actually looking interesting in an upward trend, higher lows, and so that may indicate something positive's coming for XRP. Some of these others here haven't really recovered yet. Just to skim through, we've got a couple of these bouncing nicely. So I think we maybe have found a tradable bottom here in the alts. potentially the bottom, but it's too early to call that. I just feel that there may be another shoe to drop. Been hearing some nice things about Litecoin, however. Look at this nice upward trend channel. Has been not been talked about very much, but this is what we watch for, a new upward trend channel. Litecoin looking pretty interesting here, guys. I won't say that it isn't, and so it's one to keep an eye on. So that's all I have for you guys this week. I think we've covered everything, and we'll take a quick look at Dogecoin here. And so this is a potential bull flag. I don't know if it can break above this level here. The measured move would put it up around 42 cents on the bull flag breakout. So that's what we have time for, everybody. Thanks, and hope you enjoyed this lesson. So we'll talk to you next week. And again, like and subscribe below if you like the content, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.